Hello, everybody. Welcome to Knox Makers, our Tuesday night show and share, where we come in here and talk about all of our fun projects that we've made, or not fun projects that we've made, or are making, or have really messed up, even if they are fun. And we have a sign-up sheet. If anyone's not on there, just wave at me and I'll add you. But first up on our sign-up sheet, we have Arno with laser cut tools.
Okay, so previously I talked about my fun times trying to create a taper gauge. This is what a normal one looks like. It's too long for what I need. I only need this area, and it's too sharp. It keeps poking me in the butt. So wanted to make a new one, and my work finally got a laser etcher, so I was able to put together this. So it's laser cut, polished, I ground it flat, and then etched it. And that was quite a process in itself. Got some photos of that, and I'll go ahead and pass this around. So previously when I tried, the laser cutter has its own etch mode. It is not super great, very grainy. I was trying to like tape over it to keep everything from splattering. Not much success. Here's where I was kind of mass producing them. And then grinding off the back because it left a burr. There it is after throwing it through a surface grinder. Very nice and clean, shiny, and parallel. So that came out really nicely. Ran into some issues with heat. I was using this for a couple hours before somebody took pity on me, came over and showed me how to turn the lubricant on. So, no. In all fairness, when the person showed me how to use the machine, they didn't tell me about the lubricant, so I plead the fifth. So here they are knocked out, all nice and shiny. And then here is a 3D printed fixture. You can see kind of the outline of where the laser etcher went. I'll pass that around. So I ended up taping that to the table and then etching it. And it was off, it was rotated, so moved that, put the tape back down until I got it where I needed it. This was incredibly difficult because the way the table was set up, it wasn't perpendicular. So that took a while to figure out, went through a couple failures. This is what it looked like before cleaning them. It's a little dirty. You can see that it's a little darker over here. And then when you rinse it with denatured alcohol, you get those nice, crisp lines like that. And then this is the final photo. I ended up making, I think, 4 batches. I lost a bunch. So I would have had 36. I think I had about 25 good pieces. Yeah, and that's that one. I also brought one of my old laser cut tools. So this is an angle checker. It goes from 70 degrees down to 5 degrees. You can just put any wedge-shaped thing in there to see what the angle is, and I'll just pass that around as well. So that was done on the laser cutter, so the etching on that is not very deep. I'm remaking that one now that we have the laser etching machine, so hopefully it'll look a little bit better. So that's all I have for right now. What's up?
You may have said before, but what is the taper gauge used for?
Taper gauge is used for measuring the gap on things. So the way our workplace is structured is we make parts, and then to check the parts, you put it on a gauge, and the designed gap is 5 millimeters. So if it's more or less than that, you know the part's twisted or warped or what have you, and then that allows you to tell how much.
So you can stick it in there if it goes to the 5 mark, you're at 5 millimeters.
Exactly.
And what material is that? Were you cutting?
That was some scrap material over to the side, so I don't know exactly. I know it's some kind of mild steel. That's all I know about it, unfortunately.
How thick is it?
2 millimeters or 2.5, somewhere in there.
The laser cuts through it pretty well.
Yes, the laser cutter we have will go up to 1/4 inch steel or 1/2 inch aluminum.
Somebody's asking you to measure the fiber laser.
Yes, 30 watt fiber laser. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you, Arno. That's super cool. Next on our list, we have Rob, who has a solar charger.
Experimenting again with solar panels. I call it a solar charger. There is a charger involved in this, but that's the panel. I'll put it up in here. That's a custom panel that I made. Those are the specs of the panel on the back. But if you look, these are individual little panels with copper tape between them, and then I ran this through a badge laminator. So that, you know, this is just a regular badge laminator, and I end up with a nice little panel. And then what I did is, this I gotta zoom in a little bit. What I ended up doing is making a, see if I can find me. It's gonna focus. Oops. So I made a little solar charger, and this area in here is what we call an engineering change, or in layman terms, a goof. So I had some wires incorrectly set up on my schematic, and you don't discover those until later when you start putting things together and you realize things aren't working correctly, and you go back and look at the schematic and smack yourself in the forehead and say, well, that's not quite right. But to give you an idea of scale, here's the edge of $1, right? So, and then the part that's, I like to work under a microscope when I'm doing my soldering. So here's the board with, so you can see on some of these parts, like this guy in here, right there, he has actually 10 pins that have to be soldered. Right, and again, just to give you a rough idea on scale, right? And so you can see this, it's a small little board. There, that's the board in my hand, about 2 postage stamps, I think. But what this does is it's easier if I hold it up. This is a solar panel through a charger that charges a lithium battery. And on the back side, if I zoom it back out, you can see the connections. Here's like solar. There's a 3.3 volt off of the solar part of it, and then there's a separate whole circuit for 3 volts for running the, like a microcontroller or something off the battery. And that's what this is. This is a little 3 volt buck boost converter, it's called, which is it can take a lower voltage and step it up, or a high voltage and step it down. So as this lithium battery starts out at 3 point something volts, it'll still come out 3.3, but as it drops below 3.3 down into the 3 volt range, it's still gonna output 3.3 volts. And that's good for about an amp, would you believe? So that's a beastly little guy here. But, and this does what's called MPPC, which is maximum power point control to make sure you pull the maximum power off of a little solar panel. So that's my little project. Yeah.
I saw a YouTube video once where when they were doing surface mount, they had almost like their solder was like this liquid powder, and then they used a heat gun.
Yeah.
And it would just kind of wick to the metal. Are you doing something like that, or are you
Not on.
traditional point?
No, yeah, I do traditional. Well, so ironically, this one, that big part, I call that the big part, that was just straight solder traditional, right? This guy was with a hot air, but what you were talking about, you usually use a silk screen, and I have it, and I've done it before. I just found it's a lot harder to do, because when it doesn't work, you end up taking all your parts off and doing it the other way anyways. And so by the time I'm all said and done, it's easier for me to do it one time correctly and solder it on. So I have never been happy. I've done 25 different ways of trying to solder very small things with solder paste and things like that, but I end up always just falling back to traditional. That was hot aired on, right? Because the side you can see the pins, we're gonna zoom in a little bit more here. If it zooms, will it focus, you think? Maybe, maybe not? No, it's not gonna. Anyways, you can see those are individual pins. There they go. But, you know, those are real hard to get a soldering iron tip in there. So what you end up doing is hot air, and then you swipe them real fast with solder to just make sure they're on solid. And the other thing about that one, if you saw on the little other board, this is actually one of the trickier things to do is on, if I come back into here, if you look, there's a ground plane that has to be soldered that's actually underneath the part. That's why you really have to use hot air, because there's no way to get to that without heating the whole part up. So, alrighty, all right. Come back there. Otherwise, somebody's going to never find where they were.
Right? Thanks, Rob. While we don't have a metal laser, we do have a microscope. If you ever want to try that, I don't know about myself. Maybe someday. Next up on the list, we have Joe, who has a metal sculpture. I'm assuming it's metal sculpture? Multimedia sculpture. Art.
What it really is I'm going to be doing a hand railing, and I needed to do an example for myself, a beta test for what was going to happen. So let me get up my little pictures. I didn't take the best pictures. They're kind of staged as we go. But let's see, how do you do the pluses and the minuses? Here they are. That'll probably be close enough. Okay.
Because now you're not on your phone anymore.
That's okay. Let me get it searched. Basically, the idea for the handrail is going to be that the banisters are going to be natural looking, and I want to use a lot of metal in it. So I've got mild steel, copper, brass, and wood, and a little bit of epoxy in there too, holding it all together. I'm gonna, set this up. That worked? Cool. So, here's all my irons in the fire. And it was nice to be able to have all of those, and because they cool off real fast. These are, it gets pretty thin, so they don't hold their heat for real long. So as one's warming up, you're working on the other one, and you're just always doing the shuffle between all of them. This was a swedging tool that I made so that I could start to reduce the copper pipe that I had. You can see you kind of put the copper pipe in there, and you whack it with a hammer on top, and you keep heating it up, and you kind of rotate it as it goes around. I did the same thing with the steel bar that goes through the copper pipe. I kind of made it so that it was skinnier on top, and you can slide the copper pipe down. I had reduced the copper pipe different sizes. At the top, it was skinnier than the bottom, so it slid down and kind of fit on there. I think for the others, I'm not going to waste my effort, and I'm just going to use a smaller rod in the top and braze it straight on. This is in the blacksmith shop doing the brazing. I have it set up out there to do that. I didn't remember to bring my flux with me, though, so we've got some of the borax out there, and I made some ghetto flux that way. Mixed it into a little paste. It works. It's not the best, but it works. And here you can see the braze is kind of done. There's a lot of the flux dripping down over here too. It looks like junk right now, but it really can wash off. I ended up grinding it down. Starting to weld all the leaves together here and getting things going in there. There's some of the welds on the end. And I left one tab long so that I could fit it inside the wood. I had to have some way to attach it to the wood. Let's see. Yeah, so I drilled out a little groove in the wood to accept that tab. And drill wood. I also took it across the joiner so that it had more of a flat side on one side of it so that I could, you know, attach it to the plate a little bit better. I was hoping that the wood would be heavy enough to just counterbalance it. It wasn't. It needed some heavier stuff on the bottom. Kept on tipping over. So I attached it to this metal plate, let's see, with some screws that I countersunk into the plate. You can see how the head kind of will fit right in there so it's nice and flush on the bottom. I didn't want them proud so that it was scratching up the floor. Also, to prevent scratching, I put a little bit of, I glued some vinyl on the back of it just so that you could set it on a buffet or whatever. You're not going to mess up whatever you set it on. Then I put that tab, let me see if I got, yeah. I put that tab down into the hole like that so that it fit into the groove. And then ran epoxy down into it. You can see the epoxy in the background. I just mixed it up and floated it down into the hole. It filled it up real nice, made it nice and solid, and finished up the thing. So I'm happy with it. I learned a lot about how to do it in the future, and I think it's going to be successful for the hand railing. I'm happy about that too. So, my little sculpture. In my kitchen, yeah. I've got like a stairway that kind of comes up to the kitchen and dining room. I found a nice piece of driftwood. It's got this huge curl in it, so the banister will kind of come up, curl around, and then become the handrail for the edge of the stairs there. And so I'm kind of hoping to have that kind of look underneath it too. I'll probably have some wood below it to kind of even it out a little bit, but so I'm happy. Yeah, I think it'll work. But, cool.
That's really beautiful and inspiring. I think, I mean, and like, you can obviously tell the nature in it as well. So it'll be up there afterward if anyone wants to look. Next up on the list, we have Narita with some Tunisian crochet.
Hey y'all, I have a few random things. So I typically do regular crochet, and it's just looping the fabric. Let's see. Just looping one strand of yarn into a fabric. So I've been doing regular crochet since I was on deployment. I learned how to crochet back in 2008. A few weeks ago I did a class, a Tunisian crochet class, and it's the way that the yarn loops, it's designed to look more like knitting instead of crochet. So it was just a different process. A regular crochet hook is like this, but the Tunisian crochet hooks, a lot of them have adaptable ends, so you can make different length pieces. With a regular crochet, you're only leaving one loop of yarn on the hook each time, but with Tunisian crochet, you go across the whole width of the piece, so you're having an adjustable tool helps be able to do that. And it was a challenging process. It involved a lot of counting and pattern reading. So I don't know if any of y'all ever follow paper patterns, but I was introduced to this beautiful creation called highlighter tape. And I was able to remove and stick on each line to help keep track of where I was at in the progress. So I don't know if that's helpful for anybody, but highlighter tape.
What
It's
is
like,
it? Is it like Scotch tape, or what is it?
I would compare it more to like a translucent painter's tape, because it's not very sticky, so it's not like peeling up the paper. Yeah, yeah. I've peeled in unpeeled and repeeled and stuck this one the whole time. And
Come on a roll?
yeah, they had a little roll of it. I took a class where they were introducing this method, and they had a roll of it, and they gave each of us a little piece, and it's like, yeah, you know, I went to school to be a teacher at one point, and, you know, I don't know how many books and things I've marked and ruined, and it's like, man, highlighter tape would have saved me a few $100s on book returns, I bet. So, well, I'll pass this one around if anyone wants to look at it, and I have the other one with me. I'm working on this one is just gonna be a big cape at some point.
How long did it take to do that?
Ooh, this one was probably about 20 hours, just like trial and error. A regular piece, like a big blanket, I can crochet one row every like 5 minutes. So for this, it took a significant amount of time. On the back of the pattern, it shows like all the stitches, and I guess that probably makes more sense visually, but it just has to be so precise, and so the patience to sit there and count and then go back and take a row out and redo it. When you get, you know, I would get like 4 rows up and realize I messed up, and it throws the whole pattern off. So it was a significant amount of time, but I think the next one would probably be a lot less. The learning curve is pretty steep to be able to get proficient at it. It's pretty. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to get reasonable at it.
There's going to be a run on highlighter tape in Knoxville. If anyone knows where to find it, share with everybody. We're already ordering some. Great. Next up is Brian with a driver organizer.
Hey guys. So if you take any of my classes recently, I've been apologizing for the state of the progress. But this week, I got in here a couple really late nights and did some night raging around the wood shop. And I've reorganized a whole bunch of stuff. And so if you've taken my class, you expect it. If you haven't taken my class, you're probably just going to be pissed off next time you go in because you won't be able to find anything. But anyway, this is the new drill organizer area that I've put in. Okay, so on top is our sharpening station. Obviously, you guys have seen a drill press, and if you haven't, you should take my class. First shelf, I guess the middle shelf there is going to have all your drill bits, everything like that. Down underneath it is a lot of, you know, the hand-powered equipment. That's where it's going to sit for now. But we had an enormous number of drill drivers, and I did not even realize it. I knew we had like a few of them that I regularly use, but I found like an entire solo cup full of just drivers, which is apparently a lot. So anyway, I decided we needed a holder for them, and I apologize, I did not take pictures really along the process, but I designed this array of just oversized 1/4-inch holes, and I cut them out with a laser because in a single panel here, there's 1,048 holes, and it took 2 of these panels. So around about 2,100 holes to do this. It's like a 45-minute cut on the laser. And the laser is pretty cool. So take Tracy's class if you haven't. And then, I guess I'll show this. So I also built a new holder for all of our pneumatics and drivers, everyththing like that. So the old one was like kind of sitting on a skew, and I didn't take a picture of it because it needed to go in the dumpster really fast. At least that's what I felt about it. So now we should be able to find most of the things that, you know, I'm hoping that the things that you're looking for are now in an obvious place. Here's the driver thing getting glued up. I didn't take a picture of the backside, but I ordered a magnetic film that goes in on the backside, so it kind of helps hold all of the bits in there just a little bit. It's very slight. I don't even know if it actually functions as I had intended it in my mind. And the thing is absolutely trippy to look at. If you look at it right from I took the picture from the side on purpose, because if you look at it on the front, it kind of looks like one of those things where they put a whole bunch of pictures together and now it looks like a celebrity or something. It's kind of like that. So if you're trying to find something, kind of like move to the side and it'll be a little bit more obvious. But it's in the wood shop there. If you return the things, we'll always know where they are, and that's cool. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you for all your work in the wood shop, and yes, you can see that in the wood shop after the class is over. Next on our list, we have Russell, and I have no idea what he's going to show us tonight. I bet it's a lamp.
I didn't know. Tracy has ESP or something. So, let's see. I have finally been able to get back in the shop and do a little work. I'll show you the insides first. This is a little, I think I may be zoomed in too far. Yeah, here we go. I can't read what this says, but it's somebody, brothers, from somewhere in, it won't focus, Pakistan. But anyway, a little box I picked up from an estate sale. Pretty simple wiring. I use these, if you haven't ever used them, Rob may tell me that it's a bad idea because he's a solder guy, Isaac too. But these little deals, it's just a tube that has a sealer on each end, here and here, and has solder in the middle. And you just slide it over your wire, heat it up, and it seals and solders at the same time. Is this acceptable, Rob? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. We have Rob's approval. A lady wanted me to make a lamp for her sister who's having a baby. I don't know if she's going to like this or not. But anyway, in hindsight, I think I probably should have used a candelabra type base instead of this giant thing. But anyway, there's a little shade goes on in. And these are just brass parts. I finally learned how to do threads when I'm doing my own pieces on the tubing to get the threads straight, because my early stuff would be askew because I'd have the threads not going on straight. But I finally learned how to do that. So anyway, there's the baby room light. And I'll plug this in somewhere so you can take a look at it. Tracy, can I show another one?
Yes. Is it a lamp as well?
It might be.
An illumination device.
That's right, it's an illuminatory thing. Okay, this one, this box is a fairly common thing to find at the estate sales that I haunt. It's a salesman's sample of a cedar chest, and these things are actually fairly common. You can usually pick them up for $5 or so. So we got a little cage to protect our bulb. Doesn't want to fit real well. I'm gonna have to work on that. So anyway, here's this guy. It's a lamp. So, finally got back into the shop. I've been missing this so much. So anyway, there's my other attempt. for the last couple of weeks, and I'll plug these bad boys in and let you dial the knobs. Any questions or anything?
Where did you get such a cool light bulb?
I'd tell you, but then you'd go buy one and you wouldn't buy it from me. No, I get these from a place called Vintage Wire and Supply. They've got some, I get a lot of stuff from there. They have like these vintage type plugs and the, the twisted cloth covered wire. They've got a lot of stuff so that you can replicate the old stuff. I actually didn't make the cage. I actually, normally I don't do it, but I actually did order that from them. But now that I have this one, I think I'm going to start making some because it worked out real well. And it's bound to be fairly easy to do. So I'll get the metal czars to show me how to do that. It's either copper or brass. And I do want to learn how to do brass work. Billy, how about that itty bitty lathe and machine? Is it working? The little bitty one. Yeah, it is? Sweet. All right. Did I see it? Yeah, there's a ham. It's not finished, but it will show up here to be displayed, and it would have to be the laser tube. That's going to be cool. I've got some more parts ordered for it, so we're getting closer anyway. So it's going to be very cool. Very cool. Is that it? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, do you want this too? And last on our list, we have Kevin, and I don't know what he's showing at all. I don't think it's a lamp.
I'm not a lamp.
Okay. So I'm in the process of refurbishing a lathe from 1935. Zoom in. Now, the lathe from 1935 did not come with a threading dial. This is a little Craftsman lathe that I have that shows an example of a threading dial. And what happens is as you move the cage, the carriage forwards and backwards, that dial will turn and it allows you to keep the carriage in a proper synchronization so that as you make a pass to cut threads and then you back up, you can make sure that your next pass is going to go in the same place it did before, not take out the threads you did before. So that's on the one that I'm refurbishing, and that's my lead screw. So I've had to try to find a thread that would go into it, and that's an Acme thread. And Acme threads don't seem to really be designed to do what I'm trying to do there. Well, not what I'm doing, but it's a standard thing. So I had to try to find the thread interval that would work with. And another problem that I have is that if you see there's a slit right there, and that slit is, it's a way of transmitting power that doesn't wear down your Acme threads. So I started out with this little gear, this little plastic gear that I 3D printed, and then I got to worrying that it was somehow going to get out of sync as it tried to jump across that gap, so I wasn't real happy with that. I did some thread libraries that I downloaded and came up with this one, which really was not very satisfactory. So ultimately, I came up with this gear. and this is in OpenSCAD, and I'll show you how I did that. I did it by taking a disk and making this object here, which then I subtract that object there away from the disk. And the way I made that object was to, if I can get it to come up here, take this segment, which has the same thread pitch as my lead screw, which is 6 threads per inch, and then dial them. So if you can see, they're basically, I set it all the way around at the right angle, so that it progresses the right amount, and then that leaves that shape in the middle, and then I subtracted that out. And so this was my first one that that was going to be too narrow, and I thought would have trouble with that gap. And then this is the one that I printed out. So I think it's pretty cool because I used those things, the teeth are not straight up and down, they're at an angle, and then also you can see it's got a bevel that way. And then I put, at the top, I put it's kind of hard with the black, but there's a slot there for a captive nut, and then you put a screw in through there that presses up against a shaft to hold it in. So, any questions?
You're not planning on using that, this is proof of concept, right?
No.
Get it made out of metal?
No. There's not that much stress put on a thread dial. I mean, it's not like I'm using it to power anything. All it has to do is change rotate a dial indicator. You know, I've talked to some people and they recommended doing it that way as well. And then try to make this out of brass, it would be very difficult.
So I immediately had an idea on how to do that, and then you went ahead and did it in a much better way. But would it have worked if you used 2 gears on the opposite side, or on different sides or angles on the rod that were
You mean on the actual lathe to have a gear on both sides?
where one gear would always be in contact with the teeth, and then they could be linked together on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, that might work. I think, like you said, I think it would be a little bit more complex. But yeah, it's a good idea. Anything else? All right, thank you.
I would have not guessed that. We have announcements now, and we have a guest announcement by Andrew.
Hi guys. So this Friday at Relay Ridge, which is the studio and art gallery space that I happen to own, from 6 to 9 o'clock. Address is 4124 McKinley, and y'all are invited to come on out, have some beverages and some snacks, and look at art, and talk and mingle and all that other stuff. So if you're interested in that, you're all invited. Thanks.
So what kind of art?
The gallery opening is a artist named Gina Stuccio, who's primarily a painter, but she also does, I don't know, from what I've seen so far, it looks like you are just falling into like nostalgia of a 1980s basement. So she made her own shag carpet that's covering the entire studio, or the entire gallery, sorry. And she has several like paintings that are just reminiscent of my childhood in ways that are both good and bad, so. But yeah, this Friday from 6 to 9. I'll post it in Mattermost with the address and everything, so folks can get that in case they need it. But there's several other artists, painters, printmakers, a sign painter. I don't know. That's about it. Yep. Yeah. The space is called Relay Ridge. We don't really have a name for the gallery. It's just the gallery in Relay Ridge. So I don't know. There's like a hand painted no smoking sign in the back, so we were gonna call it the no smoking gallery, but that feels like, and it's also in North Knox, but I feel like no gallery is not. We've been working through it. It's work in progress, but anyway.
I was at his last gallery showing, and it is pretty cool, so I recommend that you go check it out. A couple classes coming up. There's none in the rest of this month of April, but it's almost May. So on May 6th, which is a Friday, there's a wood authorization class which you will learn where to find all of Brian's tools and cool things that he's made. And that's required if anyone wants to access the wood shop. That's required for members. On May 11th, also taught by Brian, which is a Wednesday, is making a mallet. So it's a wooden mallet with a wooden handle, and you make your own, and it seems really satisfying. And don't buy all the tickets, because I would like to buy one. May 14th, which is a Saturday, there's a laser authorization class. There's still 2 tickets left for that, and that is required for using the laser, which unfortunately doesn't cut metal, but if enough people take the classes, maybe we can raise money and get another laser that cuts and etches metal. Yeah, maybe. Couple announcements. There was a board meeting this past Sunday, and it was super great, and we voted as a board that all new members are required to take the new member onboarding. So if you are a recent member, we recommend that you go to the new member onboarding, but anyone that has joined since Sunday is required to take that. So it's a short presentation. Myself and Isaac put it on. It talks about the history and the values and what it means to be a good community member, who you can talk to if you have questions, how this place works, because it's not run like a lot of other places. So we will also, since we're making it a requirement, we're going to try and have it more often. So in May, there will be 2 of them, and one of them will be a Tuesday. So if people are here for Tuesday nights, you can, after show and share, you can stay and hang out in here and listen to Isaac and I talk some more, if you like that kind of thing. But if you are an old member, you're welcome to come, and if you're giving a tour or someone has questions about membership, just remember that that is a requirement. Also, you might have seen the message from Sue in the woodworking channel. If you have a rented space for your tall storage, please put your name on it. Really, that applies to like any project you leaving around. If you have permission to leave a project to dry or to store in a non-conventional space, please put your name on it, because otherwise someone might think it's garbage. Yes?
We will be adding spots for name tags on those in the next week or 2.
There will be spots for name tags on the next week or 2. But again, if you have something that you don't want thrown away and you're not going to be right next to it, please put your name on it, because otherwise it might get put in the trash or think it's scrap. And that includes your member storage spaces with your bins or your rented spaces. And also, if you have a tall storage, they are not free, so watch your spam mail maybe for an invoice. And you can talk to Sue if you have questions tonight, or anyone with a red name badge. We might know the answer. That's all I have for announcements. If you're new here and you'd like a tour, find someone with a red name badge and they'll be happy to show you around. Or Russell will be happy to show you around. I think that's why you were raising your hand. No? Okay. But you can still ask Russell. Yes.
You can ask if you want. No, I have a question.
Okay.
If an old member wants to come to the onboarding, just kind of as a refresher, do they get a donut?
Well, I wouldn't call you old, Russell. But anyone who wants to come to the new member onboarding can have a donut. But you have to stay and listen to us talk the whole time. So that's all I've got. Like I said, if you have questions, talk to Russell. Otherwise, go have fun.